You should be trying to push yourself as hard as you can in the gym. It is not meant to be comfortable. This is More Than Muscle, and what I want to dive into today is training, nutrition, and mindset, and how all three are always done best with each other. How many times have you tried something and it hasn't worked because you missed an element? For example, maybe you started going to the gym, but you didn't tackle your nutrition. And maybe you started your nutrition, but you weren't tackling the mindset. And maybe you wanted to go on a personal development journey, but you didn't really necessarily have the nutrition or the training set. A lot of the time we go on one direction and we don't really target and tackle the other elements that can make the biggest difference. And so what I want to do is I want to help you understand why these are all so valuable and so important. And it's extremely important for you to understand how every single one of them is going to impact the other. The first one we're going to target is training, because how many times do people go to the gym, they get some of the results, but they don't necessarily look like they're getting fitter or healthier because their nutrition isn't dialed in, but they are doing the gym 4 days a week, 5 days a week, sometimes more, right? And so you can lift some weights, which is great. However, you're not feeling as strong as what you are capable of doing. And you definitely don't feel like you look like you're as strong as what you are. A lot of the time it's because whatever is covering on top, and that is going to be the nutrition component. Now, many people can be disciplined in training because training is exciting, right? You go to the gym, you feel good about yourself, you get that dopamine hit, and that dopamine hit, yes, it's short, but it lasts a good amount of time and it feels really good. So you know you're that person that can be consistent. Now, I've been going to the gym for years. I started when I was 13 years old and I just kept it going. I didn't love it when I was younger, but I learned to love it and I understood the value of it when I went into my sport, and then transitioning out of my sport, it was 100% the most important factor into my physicality. And that is all it is. Truly, it's physicality. Now, you might hear the person that's like, it's all about discipline, it's all about consistency, and they attribute that to the gym. But that's not actually where it's built, because it's actually quite easy to go to the gym. You think about it. It's maybe 4 to 5 hours a week. Sometimes people only do 3 days. So let's just say that you're one of those that does at least 4 to 5 days. That's 4 to 5 hours of your week. Let's say that you don't have a crazy long commute and we add an extra couple of hours. Out of the whole course of the week, that's really not that much time. So you aren't that super dedicated, disciplined person because you go to the gym 4 to 5 hours a week. Because at the end of the day, it's about what is happening every single day, the other 23 hours. Are you eating like shit? Are you doing anything for your health otherwise? Are you constantly hydrated? What's your sleep like? What's your stress like? Let's look at those areas, because those areas will tell someone so much more information than just what you lift in the gym. But I want to stay on the gym for just a second, because I have seen many people that go to the gym and they half-ass around, they barely do anything, they probably spend way more time fiddling their thumbs on their phone than they actually do any actual exercise, right? Or they're too busy looking at themselves in the mirror for them to even lift a weight. So that's where it's so important that if you go to the gym, please add the fucking intensity. Like, push yourself. Try hard. You should be looking at how to maximize your heart rate. You should be trying to push yourself as hard as you can in the gym. It is not meant to be comfortable. You are meant to be out of breath. You are meant to be pushing to failure. You are meant to be doing progressive overload. And if you're not doing any of those, then don't expect to get stronger or fitter. Now, fitness has many elements to it. It's not just strength. And people get so caught up in, I want to get stronger. Okay, but you have no endurance. And you may want to be able to be fit and run for miles on end, but yet you don't have much stability and you don't have much strength. So again, it comes down to being as well-rounded and as versatile as you can be. Like, do you have coordination? Because I've seen so many people that kind of look fit, but then they are so uncoordinated in the gym. It's like they've never done any form of activity in their life, yet they know how to bicep curl. So at the end of the day, if you want to go to the gym, then work on different elements. Work on agility, work on speed, work on strength, work on coordination and balance. Like, work on different things. And then don't be that person that goes all the time, but you're not even flexible because you never stretch and you never do mobility and you never actually work on anything else. So this is why it's so important. Every single client I work with, we always go through a movement prep. We go through strength. We go through conditioning. We go through cool downs. We go through mobility, and we look at different areas of what they're not good at, and then we tackle them and we target them, because fitness has so many different elements to it, so why not target and tackle all of them? But if you're one of those people that goes there and you do the same thing over and over and you just keep doing upper body, never lower body, then you're probably going to stay that way. I'll be real with you. So change it. You have to change it. Become versatile, because what's going to happen is you will become adaptable. So let's say you're walking down the street and all of a sudden you have to run across the street. You won't even flinch at that. You won't even be out of breath from that. Let's say you have to carry something up a flight of stairs. You won't be out of breath. You won't be reaching for the rail. That's where you can then apply the gym work that you do into everyday life. That's what makes it so damn important. If you want it to show and if you want to maximize your performance, this is where nutrition sets in. This is where nutrition is probably one of the key things that most people don't want to tackle because it's difficult, right? We love how good things taste. We love listening to our taste buds. We also love listening to our mind tell us that we need to eat something even though we're bored, tired, hungry, frustrated, whatever. So that's why when it comes to nutrition is either going to make or break your success, truly. If you want to be successful, then tackle your nutrition. Understand how macros work, how calories work. Understand micronutrients and how do they work? How do they maximize your performance? How do they help with your energy and your mood? How do you actually lean out by utilizing carbs, fats, and proteins and the right amount? That's where nutrition comes into play. And most of the time, people have no idea. And that's totally okay. But let me tell you something. You can use anything you want to try and give you a breakdown. Yes, you could go out there and you could use ChatGPT or any other AI to get your macros in place. But when it comes to you putting the cookie down, AI ain't going to help you. I can assure you of that. So if you do want a nutrition plan, you need to have discipline to go with it. You need to have consistency to go with it. Not just some robot telling you some numbers and some foods to hit, but yet you're not doing it because you haven't dealt with the fucking mentality that you have broken in your approach. So it's so important that when you get on a plan, if you're going to use something that's out there like an online calculator, cool. But understand that it's going to be challenging and that there needs to be some behavior shifts. There needs to be some habits that you have to break in order for you to change. And when you do that, I'm telling you, you will get such great results, but only if you actually change your behavior, which means you're going to have to stop doing some things that you've been doing that has led you to the position that you're in now. So if you're going to get some macros, let's say that you go and do some macro calculator, which is fine. It's a good place to start. Then you start tracking using one of the apps that are out there, whether it's MyFitnessPal, it's Chronometer, it's Macros First, whatever one you want to use. You go and start looking at it. You're going to learn about all the things that are in the foods. So if you track some fruits, you're going to see how much carbs are in them. If you're tracking some proteins like chicken or fish or steak, you're going to see how much protein and fats are in it. And then if you're tracking some avocado, you're going to see how much fat's in it. And that's what is going to make up your meal. And then if you go and eat out somewhere and you see what's in it, you're going to start to get a pretty clear understanding of how much crap is in the food that you're eating. So it's really important for you to learn. And when you learn, you're going to start to see some changes. Now, here is where most people get this wrong. They get on a calorie count and then they have a macro breakdown and they track their food and they're doing okay. They're getting some results, but then maybe they drop a bit of body fat or maybe they drop some weight and then they don't do anything to change. And then they plateau and they stall. That is where another adaptation is the most critical. In other words, something needs to change to your macro goals, whether that's an adjustment on carbs, fats, or proteins, but that's where something has to change for your body to then adapt. Just like you would go and lift heavier in the gym to get stronger, you need to change your macros to get leaner and to help with your body composition. So that's where you want to make a change. But people don't do that. They stay at the same macros, the same calories, the same foods, and they do not make any adjustments. I can't stress how important this is. And you want these adjustments to be made every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, sometimes even every 8 weeks. That way, your body is adjusting as you are going, because you're going to have different goals. You're going to have different metabolisms and different areas of your body that are shifting. And so you need to adjust with it, because if you don't, that's where you're going to find yourself stagnant. And that's where you're probably going to get demotivated because nothing has changed in your body for so long. So again, if you want to start with the macros, great. Then meet the foods, then go on your journey, but please make an adjustment. Now, the second thing that most people fall short on is they then eat even less. So in other words, they drop some body fat, they gain some muscle, and then they put themselves on less food, and then they plateau. If you are actually getting fitter and leaner and healthier, you need more food. It's not what everyone else is doing out there. Now, if you think that I weigh less, therefore I need to eat less, you are inadequately correct with that. And most of the time it's because you don't know what you're doing, and you don't know what you're saying, and you don't even know what the right approach is. What you want to do is you want to make sure that your body with more muscle is going to eat more food. And someone that has less body fat needs to eat more food because you're leaner, you have a higher metabolism, your basal metabolic rate is higher. So therefore you actually have to feed yourself a little bit more. And these aren't huge amounts. Sometimes your basal metabolic rate just increases by 50 calories a day. But here's the thing, over the course of a week, that's 250 calories, maybe even 300 calories that you need to eat more of. Now that adds up over time. So you need to understand how to do this. So again, every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, make an adjustment. That's the key here. And the last part is mindset. Now, mindset is something that very few people want to target and tackle, because who wants to sit with themselves and learn about why they suck so much? Well, I'm going to encourage you to do that as often as you can. Sit in reflection and then plan for preparation. So when you reflect on yourself, when you look at, okay, like this is where I fall short. It's around patience. It's around consistency. It's around discipline. I fall short and I'm reactive and I don't know how to stick to a plan. And then my mood changes all the time because I'm frustrated because I'm not saying no to people because I'm a people pleaser. Learn about yourself. Mindset is huge. And when you learn about yourself, you can then become aware of your patterns. Why do you turn to food every time you're stressed out? Why do you not eat every time you're fatigued or tired? You know, some people are actually like too fatigued and tired to eat, so they skip meals. Some people are stressed non-eaters, right? So you may be one or two, maybe you're like all three of those. Like, this is where you get to learn about yourself. Then once you're aware of your patterns, you then can regulate it. When you're regulating it, you can understand, I automatically go to that route. Those are my automatic blueprints. When you have an automatic blueprint, what's going to happen is you're going to learn about your ways and what ways are keeping you stuck and what ways you need to get unstuck. This is absolutely key because it comes up in training and it comes up in nutrition the most. When someone is stressed, when they're angry all the time, when they're tired, when they're fatigued, when they're not reaching their targets or their outcomes, the pressure is on. And so the character gets revealed because the pressure is on. So what do? They tend to fall short on the workouts. They tend to not stick to the plan because they're stressed out, they're fatigued, they're annoyed, and they're not getting what they want. And so they kind of like go and throw a pity party on themselves like nothing's working, even though that's absolute bullshit. You're just not being consistent enough and you're not being, patient enough for you to get the outcome. So it obviously comes up in training and nutrition. So think of training and nutrition more as the smoke screen to your real problem. Your real problem is your mindset. It's always probably been your problem, right? You just don't realize it because you're not aware of it. And how can you be? I'm probably here talking to you about it and you're starting to understand like, wow, like every time I'm frustrated, I get really, really annoyed and I don't think about what I'm going to go and put in my mouth next. But that's because you don't have awareness. You don't have consciousness. Because most of the time, I would say 98% of the world walks around unconscious and unaware. Like they're not sitting there going, what's this all about? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What's my intention for the day? I reflected on yesterday, I don't want to be like that again. I want to be a little better. Isn't that crazy that we don't do that? Yet we live in a world where everyone is a human being, but they're so busy doing that they forget to be the being. And that's why mindset is so critical. Now, the best way for you to understand mindset is to sit and find some stillness. Some stillness where you can just be with yourself. You can do breath work. You can do journaling. You can just sit and just think. It doesn't matter. But do something to get in your head. Stop running away from your thoughts, because the more that you run away from what you think, the more it's going to chase you down and it's going to hit you harder than it ever has. And it will come out. Any type of unhealed trauma will come out. Any type of unhealed break or damage or anything that you have not actually drawn any attention to will come out, and it will ruin you. It's just a matter of time. You can't outrun it. You can't outwork it. You can't outlive it. You can't do any of that. So the more that you actually address the shit that you are avoiding, the more you will actually find the magic that you want, the result that you want, the outcome that you want. But if you want to keep avoiding, cool. Just don't expect to land anywhere good. So I want you to understand how training, nutrition, yes, while they are important, they aren't the key. The mindset is the key, because mindset will keep you consistent. Mindset will keep you disciplined. Mindset and developing it to be strong, to have mental fortitude, that is where the resilience is going to be built, and that is where adaptability will be made. And you'll be able to carry that through no matter how much it gets harder, no matter what struggle you go through, no matter what adversity you face, but the mindset is going to be what gets you there. It's like the whole go one more concept. You do another day, you do another hour, you do another rep, you do another whatever it is to get to where you want to go. Or you give up. Those are really your options. And if you give up, then you give up. But own it. Take responsibility. No one's giving up for you. You're giving up. You're the one that's walking out. So you own that shit. You put your head down and you walk out on shame. Like, you're going to have that. And be okay feeling shameful. Be okay feeling like, you failed, because you kind of did. If you quit on anything, you did fail, because you didn't give it a go. You didn't even give it the proper effort. And that's why so many people feel so horrible, because they didn't give something a chance. Now, if you tried something and it didn't work, but you moved on to something better, and that's something that was actually going to work, then you didn't fail. You learned. And there's a huge difference. So learn the difference between doing something that didn't work and moving on to something better that was made for you, and doing something and quitting too soon. Because when you quit, yes, you can call yourself a failure at that point, because you didn't give it enough time, you didn't give enough effort, you barely even tried. That is going to be failure. But when you tried something and you gave it the effort and it didn't work, and you learned what doesn't work, and then you moved on to something better, then you're a better person. You're a better version of yourself. So use this as a fuel. Use this as a way for you to kind of like sit there and think to yourself, what am I missing here? What is the one key element that I keep missing? If you're one of those people that constantly goes to the gym, but you don't really have the results to show for it, then it's probably your nutrition. And if it's your nutrition, it's probably your mindset that goes with the nutrition. So tackle it. Truly tackle it. Stop avoiding the work. Stop avoiding the decision, because at the end of the day, don't you want your power back? Don't you want to take that power and make a fucking decision and do something with commitment and conviction? Like, I'm doing this. You're going to feel so much better. That's where confidence comes from. It comes from you making a decision, practicing upon that decision, becoming competent at whatever it is that you're trying to do. And that's where confidence lives. Everyone wants the confidence, but they don't want the journey to get the confidence. Everyone wants the fucking outcome, but they don't want the journey to get the outcome. You have to be willing to go on it. And you have to trust the damn process. The process is where it's at. The process is everything. So just remember, guys, everything that you want is on the other side of fear. So make a move, take action, because you're one decision away from a completely different life.